Hello, welcome to another episode of Necessities of Life. What do we have in store for you this time? This time we are building a shed which is roughly 9 foot by 8 foot, and it's going to go just here. We are using a 2x2 framework for the base covered with an OSB ply, mainly because we've already got a concrete base here, so we haven't got to worry about that. If I was building a base from scratch, I'd be using a 2x4 framework, doing the concrete post like I did on the decking job, which you can see in the previous video. So, first thing I've got to do, I've got all my plans drawn up, I've got all my materials, and it's time to start getting ready to get the base done. Right, okay, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm laying my ply straight down onto the ground, mainly because I want to build my frame on top of that, so I know the frame is built to the size of the ply, because if I try and build the ply to it, it might be out slightly, but so that's what we're going to do. However, at the moment we're only at 8 foot, we need another foot on the end of it to make it 9 foot. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run a sheet of ply down now to a foot, and that'll be the right thickness, right length then for the rest of my shed. I've got my sheet of ply here that needs to be cut down, and I'm just going to show you what we're going to use. So I'm going to use my trusty circular saw to cut this piece of ply up. I only need to cut it at a foot, so I've marked it. If you're doing this by eye, because I'm using this guide rail, which I'll tell you about in just a second, but if you're doing this by eye, you want to make at least 4 markers along it, use a long spirit level, join the lines up, and then you've got your line to cut to. But I'm going to use this. I'm going to show you what this is now. Okay, this is basically just a saw guide. It comes in 2 parts, and it basically, so you can use it if you're cutting a short piece at 1.8 or half side 1.2, or you can join them together and it allows you to cut an entire sheet of ply on your own. And all you do is it comes with these little clamps here, which basically clamp it to the wood so it doesn't move. And all you do is you get it onto your little marker that you've made on each end, you put your saw on it, and then basically just cut along it. But I'm going to get this set up and I'm going to show you how it works. Okay, so I've got my saw guide set up in place, and all you do is basically you put your saw on at one end and you guide it along, although start at the other end. But what I've done is also I've set the saw to a slightly lower mark, because it basically, I find that it's just a slightly better. You can cut it on full, but this tends to just sort of take a little bit of the strain out of the motor when you're cutting. So all we do is we start at one end and we cut all the way across. I can move the board back and forth so I don't cut through my trestles, and I can keep an eye on those as I'm cutting it. So let's get this one cut. All you do is put it onto your saw guide, power it up, and off you go. There we go. One perfect cut, 1 metre wide, nice and square, thanks to my trusty little jig here. Right, let's get this piece in place. Okay, I now have all my floor plan into place to the size it needs to be. I know that the ply is all new, apart from the end piece which I've cut, which I still know is square. So the whole frame is now square. So now when I build my frame up, I'm going to build my frame on top of this. Then I can remove the frame, take the ply away, put the frame back, and then build on top of it. So let's get the frame built. Okay, I've made my frame up. Let's pull the camera out and you can have a look. So there you go, I've got my frame made up now, all on top of the ply. So in a minute I'm going to take the frame off, put it to a side, and put it back, and then put the ply on top. But right, so crucial bit here, weakest point of your OSB is always going to be the edge bit. So when you're laying your frame, always make sure that you've got a beam underneath where bits of OSB mount. See, I've done the same on that side. So that way then all the weakness is taken out. So when it's on the floor, you're not going to have a bit that's just going to be weak and falls through. So that's now nice and secure. My frame's all built. I'm going to move that, put my OSB back, and then I'm going to get it fixed down. Now you've moved your frame, you've moved your ply, you've put it all back, you've put your frame back, now ready to put the ply on top. The chance are it's gone all out of square, which it's going to do anyway. So what we're going to do is, rather than just putting all the ply on it, we're just going to start with this one here. Now it's up to you how you fix this in with yourself. You can either use screws, you can use nails. I'm going to use my nail gun mainly just because it's a bit quicker and a bit easier. And they are galvanised screws, so they won't rust, which is also good. So what I've done is I've got my base down. I've got to make sure it's all square, so I'm going to start off just by putting a nail into this corner here, like this, making sure it's nicely flush with the corner. I'm going to put one in there, and then I'm going to go and square up the one on this side over here, just on this corner here. Right. Right, there we go. Now that's fixed in. You don't know if you can see, but just down this side, the framework is now completely out of plumb on that side down there. So I'm going to bring that in nice and straight, move it around a little bit, get it all nice and straight, and then I can put my next lot of nails in. So let's have a look, see if we can do that now. Okay, I'm quite happy with that. Just check this side as well. It's nicely on the frame. So I'm going to put my next board in, check it's level all the way across, and I'm going to fire a few more nails in. Okay, my pliers in place, it's all nice and square. I'm now going to nail it all the way around. I'm not going to nail in the middle of the panels because I don't think I really need to. Basically because it's on a concrete plinth. If I was doing an elevated platform, not on concrete, I would nail it on every single beam just to give it that extra bit of strength. But I don't need to on this one. There we go. That's my base now nice and complete. It's all done. Now it's all nice and squared. I can now bring it into square on the concrete plinth that it's under. And I now know it's completely square and I can start building some walls. Right, now we're starting on the sides of the shed. Because we're doing a gable type roof on this, we're going to start with the side panels. And the first thing you've got to do is you've got to cut your top and your bottom, and you're just basically going to do it to the same length as your base. Cut them both to the same length as your base, which I've already done. Right, so now I've got my top and bottom rail done for the side of the shed. The next thing I want to do is do my uprights. Now, if you work into your own plan, you're going to want to get your measurement out now, because I'm now basing my shed on the side height of being 1.9 meters. So it's just a little over 6 foot, mainly because I'm 6 foot and I keep smacking my head when I walk into a low shed. So all we're going to do is you're going to take out 1.9 meters, and you're going to take off your top and your bottom rail thickness, which is 4.4 centimeters off each one. So basically I'm taking off about 9 centimeters off it. So I'm going to cut mine to 182, not quite 1.9, it's just over, but that's about the right length. Now I've got 8 of them, so I'm now going to cut all 8 to to the measurement I need, which is 1.9 meters in total. Okay, so when you're cutting multiple lengths, all to the same measurement, I've got my measurement, which was 180.8 for my side frame wall in height, because I've got the same thickness, about 9 centimeters, about 9 centimeters for the thickness of the beam, top and bottom. So I've taken it off, works out 180.8 when I've worked out the measurement. So I've got to cut 8 of these, and I want them all to be pretty much exactly the same size, give or take a fraction of a mil. So the easiest way is to literally line them all up on your chop saw, if you've got a chop saw. As you can see, I've clamped them together. I've made sure the ends are nice and flush all together. So now I've done that, I've lined it up, made sure it's nice and square, and I can cut that, knowing that all of these timbers will be the same length. So I can go and get those cut. I'll show you. There we go. That is 4 of my 8 lengths cut. They're all the same size. I've got that clamped up already, so they're the same size. So all I've got to do is bring them in, use one of these as a jig piece that I've now cut here because they're the right size. and then I can do it again. Okay, with all the uprights now cut, we've now got to fit them into place. We've got to make sure they're all in equally distant from each other all the way working along. There is a calculator which I will put in the description for you so you can use it for yourself. It will work out basically what your spacer size should be. So I've already worked that out. I've got my 2 spacers, and all we're going to do is, I'll show you, I've already made a start. What we're going to do is literally just going to put one in that side, one in that side, fit it with the beam up to it, and then we just move it along like that. So we just keep moving it along, fit a beam in, take them out, move them along, fit a beam in, move them along, fit another beam in, so on and so forth. So handy bit to use, and I will make sure the formula is in the description for you. I've now finished putting all my beams in, and I'm just going to go through and show you what I've done. As you can see, I've got all my beams in, they're all nice and equally spaced, but I've also now, as you can see, I've also added some 45 degrees angles in there. This is basically to stop the frame from being able to do that a little bit more. Now there are people who will do their diagonals from top to bottom. Now I think from past experience there's too much linear in it, so it's almost going to act like a beam and you'll still get some of that. So I've always figured out that if you use as shorter ones as possible to get your 45s, there's going to be a lot more strength for using short ones than there is a long one. Now the next thing you'll notice is I've also added these bits in here onto my side frames. I've done it at both ends. There is a very good reason for this, which will become more apparent when we start the cladding process, mainly because I'm going to attach a batten along this edge to act as a finisher. So if I haven't got enough room on this, there's not enough room to attach the board nails onto this. So I've added this section in here, so it gives me an additional place to attach some nails or screws, whichever you use, for your shiplap. So when we're cladding it, I can attach them nice and firmly onto this beam here, and my edge trim bit can now fit nicely onto this bit here. So that's the side frame done. Next frame I've got to do is a side frame with a couple of windows in it. So I'll show you a couple of little processes as I'm going on and doing that. Okay, I've now completed my 2 side panels. One of them had windows in, so I've had to make sure I've got that all measured up properly to take my window size. Now my window size is going to be 50 by 50, but I'm also putting a slight cladding in, so I've oversized it slightly. I never order the glass until I've actually finished the framework and the shed and all the trimming bits, just in case it doesn't quite fit. And then I can, once I've trimmed it, I can measure it, pop down, go and get the glass and then fit that in. But anyway, here we go. This is my framework now finished. As you can see, I've got my window sections in there. I've now raised it up and I've temporarily fixed it down with just a couple of screws on the base framework there, and just put a couple of diagonals up just to hold the framework nice and level in place. Now I've got that done, as you can see with my diagonals now, it's lost a lot of that lateral movement, and I'm really happy with the way that's turned out. Now my next stage now is to make my back frame. I'm going to try and match it up with a hedge up there, and also then make my front frame with the door. So that's going to be my next sort of project, and I'm now going to crack on and make the back framework, and I'll show you how I work out the roof piece later on. Okay, time for a little handy hint. We're just going to be measuring an inside edge here. Now, sometimes I'll just move my camera further back so you can see this a little bit more, hopefully. Okay, so we're measuring an inside edge. So normal parameter to do, if I turn around, it's going to be, I'll put it just on here so you can see from the inside. So what you're normally going to do is you're going to put your measurement along like that, bring it all the way to the end, and then you're going to try and work it out where your measurement lies. However, as you can see with that end, it doesn't fit nice and neatly into the corner. So what I've done on this one is I've measured this side here, over here. What I've done is I've measured 10 centimetres from the end of the panel there, 10 centimetres from here, and I've made a mark there. Now what I do is I turn around, use my tape measure from the other side on the inside edge. I can then measure my gap up to the line that I've made, which is 2248. And all I do now is add another 10 centimetres onto that. And that is how we measure an inside edge, the easiest way. I've now gone ahead and I've fitted my the overall height that I want. That's my centerpiece there. I've set that to my overall height there. So that's the height the whole shed is going to finish off. Obviously then there's plywood on the top. Right, so what I've done now is I've got a piece of wood here that I'm going to use to go my angle. This is the one here. I've marked on here, I've put a little line here for the amount of overhang I want. I'm going for 10 centimetres overhang on this one here. So I've made a mark there. Now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put this piece of wood in on top of there with the line on the outer edge, and then I'm going to anchor it to the top of that one, and then that will give me all my angles for what I need to set my miter saw up to cut it to make sure all the angles are nice and flush. So I've now got my two diagonal uprights there and there, which are holding my frame upright and vertical, right where they want, they're nice and level. I've just put a temporary cross beam in, just so I can support my centre beam for my overall height. I've put my cross beam, my diagonal going up to the roof, and I've made sure it's nice and equal at the top. Now the next thing I've got to do is I need to cut a little bird's mouth. I'll show you what that is in a minute when I've cut it. But using my trusty angle finder just here, this one is by Trend, all I've done is I've just put it in, I've folded it up, and I've got it so it's locked in, it's nice and square up there, and now that is now the angle that I can now work with to cut my bird mouth into the piece of timber. So I'm going to do that now, and then I'm going to show you afterwards what it looks like and what I mean by bird's mouth, and then I'll tell you the reason why I've done that. The top piece is now cut, and I've put a little bird mouth in it. Now I'm going to explain to you what a bird mouth actually is, if you're not aware of them or not heard of it before. This is what we call a bird mouth cut. Basically, this will sit now on the frame on there. I've got this end cut at the right angle, and now when we take it over to here, okay, there we go. So now it's now securely sat in there. It fits nicely on the frame. It's not fully in position yet, so ignore that. It's matched at the same angle for the top. Again, it's not in position, so it's not sitting quite right just there yet. But I've checked it in where it's got to go, and it fits perfectly. Now, when I put a screw in, I can screw straight down through there. That sits flat, and it's nice and strong and secure, and it's going to give it that extra bit of a strength to, by the time it's all fixed up, take any movement out of that. So that is a bird mouth cut. What I've done here is, as opposed to just keep remeasuring every single one to cut it, I've got an original one which was perfect and fitted. So all I've done is I've used that as a template, and I've got all of them now. All of my uprights for the roof, they're all cut. So now I can crack on, and I don't need to keep remeasuring it. I took it apart, I laid it down, and literally just rolled them out over the top, and just used staples just to staple it all on. Left a bit of overhang on each side, so when I put it up, I can overlap it round. This will basically just keep it watertight. Now, today we've got to start on the roof trusses. So what I've done is I've left this as a bit of an overhang here. So once I've got the roof truss done, I can then put the roof up, and then I can lift that up and I can staple it on. So that's the next stage we're going to do. So we've got it all in, it's all nice and squared off. The main framework's up, but let's start on the roof. Okay, that is my two end trusses done. You'll notice what I've done there is I've left a little space there, because that's actually going to fit my cross beam that's going to go from one side to the other. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to lift my material up now, get that all nailed in, and then we're ready for the next part. That's that one. So the next thing we've got to do, we've got to think about our centre beams that are going to go across from one side to the other to support the roof. So what we've got to need to do is we've got to remember on each end we've got to allow for the 2x2 that's going to go underneath the ply for the overhang, and we've also got the cladding we've got to consider. So what I've done is a sheet of ply is 244 long. So I've now made a marker So my 244 is up there. So what I've done is I've allowed a 14 overhang. So I've marked it off on both sides at 230. So that's where I'm going to put that truss there. Then I've got to spread the weight a bit more evenly. So I need one truss there, and I'm putting in, I've got 3 more trusses to put in. So I'm going to basically divide this up here by 3. That ends okay. So I'm going to divide this here by 3, and that'll determine, divide this area up to here by 3. That'll determine exactly where my next lot of trusses are all going to be positioned to go from one side to the other. So I'm going to go ahead and get that marked up. Right, let's show you on this side. So I've got my markers. I've marked one at 75 there, one at 150, and that marks where the end of the sheet of the ply is. We've got to make sure that there's one in between, as we did with the floor. That'll alleviate any bounce. So then I've just got one section we're going to put from that side to that side. So that's going to be one sheet of ply at the top, smaller sheet at the bottom for the overhang, and then that's it. Right, so I'm going to start making my framework up. Okay, as you can see, we've put our beams in that we prepared earlier with the bird mouse. We've got them all nice in position. We know that this one here in particular is going to meet with a sheet of ply when we put that on. You also notice at the minute that I've also put a bit of 4x2 across the top. Now that's just going to, that's a nice straight piece, so it's just going to pull my top beam into place, so that's nice and straight. I've temporarily fixed in my upper beams, but these are not, unfortunately, going to be strong enough to take all the weight. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to add a few bits. I'm going to add a cross beam across here on both sides and one piece fixed that's going to support our top rail there. As you can see, all we've done is on each of my beams I've put a cross beam from one side to the other, put a centerpiece in which supports the top beam. I've put a 3 in. If you wanted to put more in, you always can do, but this is plenty good enough for what I need. It'll take my weight. Once we get the boards on, it'll take my weight. Yeah, but that's all of those done. The next point of call now is we've got to start the cladding work. So we're going to use a 125mm treated shiplap, and we're going to start from the bottom. We're going to work up. The reason why I choose to do my cladding before I put the roof on is because up here we've got a little bit of clearance between the top of the shed frame and this roof, so I want to make sure and get the gap, and then I can go up and trim it off afterwards without the roof being in the way, and it makes it a bit easier to do. So that's going to be my next stage. I'm going to be using my compressed air nail gun because I find it easier to use it, and again we've got to put some battens on it, so we're going to put some battens on the edge of this. So on this side here we can go up nice and flush to this edge here. Then we're going to put a batten on it, and then we're going to do the inside of this side with a batten, but we can show you when we're doing it. Now, with the windows, at this point here, I'm just going to board straight over the windows for now, and then once that's done, I'm going to cut them out from the inside, just because I find that that's the easiest way to do, and then I can use those pieces that I cut out to make my window surround before the glass goes in. So I'm going to go and get prepared. I'm going to get my nail gun out, going to get my boards down, and I'm going to start the cladding process. Right, just starting to prepare now for doing the cladding, and the first thing we've got to do is we've got to put our little end bits on. Basically, this is where it's going to tidy up the edge for the cladding. So this is a cladding we're using, quite a nice, lovely, nice shiplap. So how do we fit these on? So basically, we're going to work out our length. We're going to get our height measured, which I've already done that. I've already put this on place. So all we're going to do is, to make sure it goes in the right place, is we're going to put our board on, and all we're going to do is put it on in different places and then screw the batten, so when we come to put all these on, it's going to be nice and flush all the way down. And that is how we fit these on. So I've got 2 more to do, and then I'm going to start putting some boards on. I've now completed the 3 sides. I've done this side, the far side. As you can see, I've left a bit for overhanging, which we're going to trim off once we've got all the boarding complete. As you can see on the back, I've come over the top so I can trim that off, get it nice and flush. It's the easiest way to do that. I'm going to just use a multi-tool, and I'm just going to trim off all of those. But now we're coming to do this section here. We've now got to do this front section with the door. So what I've done is I need to make sure that I need to leave a bit of an overhang on here, so when the door closes up, it's going to close here. I don't want to finish these trims off to the edge here. What I need to do is when I've got my panelling up, it's going to have a finish like that. So basically when the door closes, it leaves a nice little gap that water's not going to get in through the gaps. So I'll show you more than that later on when I've done that. Now, to make sure I get this nice and accurate, I've got my little nice Huber level out. I've made it sure it's all level. I've got a nice green line that I can work with all the way round. I've got these offcuts here from trimming the previous side. So what I'm going to do is I can use both of these. I can use one for this side, and this will fit to do both sides of this. So I'm going to use one piece, and I'm going to cut that to fit both sides. That way then I know that the gap is going to always be the same all the way going up, so we can keep them level going up to top. I will get a long spirit level out, and I'll check the level as I'm going, because I want to make sure that it meets all the way across the top there. So let's crack on and start getting these clad, and I'm going to work to my laser line, and that is where I'm going to make my cut. So when I put my piece of wood on, I can line it, put a mark on it, and that'll work then. That's my first one on that side. I've also gone ahead and put the one on the other side from exactly the same piece of wood. I've put my level on it to make sure it's level all the way across, and that's absolutely perfect for where I want it. So now we've just got to carry on working up. Every time that I get one of these cut to fit on the other side, I'm going to lay it out so it's ready to stack up then onto this side as well. Then I'm using the same pieces. The gap will always be the same, because sometimes there's a very slight difference in size on these. So if I use the same piece on both sides, it will go up nice and level on both sides. That's that now, all nice and done and trimmed off, and I've cut the windows out ready for the next stage. Everything's all trimmed, so the next thing we've got to do is we're going to lift the ply on for the roof. Now, because I'm working on my own, I need to find an easier way of doing this, because the ply will try and slide off. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to measure out where I need to roughly put them. I'm going to put a couple of blocks in, just screw them on temporarily, just so I can then slide it up, and then it won't slide down, and then I can position it a bit easier. So let's go ahead and get that bit done. The roof has now been started. I've got my first sheet of ply up, but I've literally just gone around now and I've just put some extra edge beams in just to support the weight of the ply when it's on there. So it's all ready now. I'm going to finish off getting all that plied, and then we can start working on getting the windows ready for fitting in. So yeah, the ply's going on nicely. It's all nice and square, and it's all fitting just lovely. There we go. That is my roof now. It's all finished and is now ready for felting. I've got some lovely nice edges to work to here, which I can use when my felt goes over. I can batten around it, and that'll also keep the batt secure, but felting later on. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to start building the windows up. How I'm going to do that is because I want a window ledge in there. Okay, using my offcuts that came out of the window, I've got one here. I'm going to use this one here to create like a little window ledge. So it's there. And we're going to use the other ones that cut out just to go around here, which will seal all of this in. Once that's done, I've got some beading work to go in. So I'll build up this surround with these to shade all these. And then I'll put some beading in, put the glass in, then put the inside beading in. So let's get a crack and start this process. Okay, that's my edging done. So that's just to frame the outside of the window. That's both of them done there. So that bit's done. Next thing we've got to do is we've got to start putting the beading in. Right, what we've got a nice bit of quadrant there, and we've got a nice little square. We're going to put the quadrant in around on the outside, and we're going to basically brad nail that one on, second fix nail gun, and then we're going to put the square one on the inside, but we're going to put a little bit of silicone around it, press the window in, then we're going to nail that one in. So let's go ahead and get that done. Now I've got my all my window frame bits cut. These bits can be straight cut here. These don't need to be put on a diagonal. However, if we just switch to the outside, we can now have a look, and we can see we've now done our little mitre cuts. So we've got a nice tight fitting frame all the way around. So what we're going to do is I'm going to get the other window then cut, so that all frame's ready to go. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to attach these inside bits here. I'm going to tack those in with my nail gun, and then I'm going to get the glass. I'm going to put a little bead of silicone on both sides of this. So I'll put a bead of silicone on that, put the glass in, put another little bead of silicone on this side. That'll keep the watertight, the window then watertight. So then we've got a nice sound wedge, and I'll press that in, and then I'll brad nail this piece on as well. So just to recap, we're going to cut the other window frame so it's all ready. Then we're going to tack these in here, bead of silicone on this side, put the glass in, bead of silicone on the other side, push that in so it's against the glass, and then we're going to nail that one in as well, and then that'll be the windows complete. There we go, that's my windows now complete. They've all been siliconed in. I've left a little blue marks on here so you can see the glass is actually in. It's all nicely in, it's all nicely beaded, and it looks nice. There we go, let's just have a look at the outside. There we go, look, there we go. I am going to put some extra little trim bits on here just to neaten that up, but that's the actual window frame in, nice and looking nice. There's both of them together. Windows done. Here we go. Right. Today we're going to be getting the doors on for the shed, and then later on we're going to start the roof mounting process. Now, again, I'm kind of on my own working this, so I'm finding little ways to help myself. What I've done is got my door frame in. Most importantly, I've got my spacers back in the bottom so it's not actually touching the floor, and I've just clamped the frame in so it basically keeps it in place when I start my cladding process. What we've got here, this is our gate furniture we're going to use. We've got hinges here because we're going to put 3 hinges on it on each side. I've got 2 lovely nice little handle here. I've got a lock bolt which is going to go on the outside, and I've got these 2 here which are going to be fitted here on the inside, these tower bolts. These are going to fit in on here. I'm going to lock this. I'm going to lock the bottom. So that'll make that one then secure. When I put this frame on, I'm going to overlap it so it actually closes up onto this gate on this side. So then it's going to be more secure, and it'll be more weather tight as well, and there won't be a gap down the middle. So let's go ahead and we'll fit the tower bolts on just to make this a bit easier for cladding it, because obviously you see it's a little bit wobbly, which it's going to be because it's not fitted in. So we're going to fit the tower bolts on, and then we can start the cladding process. We're going to do the cladding, the same cladding to shiplap, but we're going to run it vertically up the gate there. Okay, the cladding is now going up. Just a quick note, what you want to do now is just feel where your beams are for where your hinges are going to go, because it's making it nice and accurate. So all I've done is I've just put a little pencil line, as you can see there, in the middle of the beam, and I've marked out all 3 all the way down. So now I can carry on, then when I come to put my hinges on, I'll know exactly where they go and I'll hit the beam behind it. Just a little handy tip. That's another stage complete. I've now got the doors on. I've got a lovely little pad bolt just here, which is holding the door. It opens nicely. It's got this little gap here which closes onto that nicely to keep the moisture out. We've also got them fitted, the locks fitted inside and out. So that's that one and the one at the bottom. So that is now my doors are completely done and in and fitted. So the next thing I've just done is I've literally just put a couple of trim pieces just around this window on the outside just to tidy it up. It's made it look a lot better and stopped any gaps to the water ingress. So one last job to do now, and we've got to now felt the roof. I'm not sure if you've ever felt the roof, and I'm not sure whether to do this as another episode. I think I might do. So that's the construction of the shed done and finished. It's all nicely square. Step it back, and there you can see it's all nicely done. Obviously just got a bit of clearing up to do. So, necessities of life on how to build a shed, and I will see you very shortly for another episode where we're going to felt the roof. Goodbye and see you soon. Don't forget to like, follow and share, and you'll see the video soon.